Hello everyone, and welcome for this recording on the launchpy synchronizer. I will go through this recording on the synchronizer workflow, how you can use that for launch and for launch API using launchpy. So if you go to the repo, which is the launchpy repo in my GitHub, then you have access to the documentation, and in that documentation you have access to one of the main class that is available in the module is the synchronizer class. I will go through all of that, but all of these information are available here. You can see all of this. It's not that long of the documentation. And there are some prerequisites. First, I'll go through that directly, but you need to import the config file or use the configure method in order to access the launch API. Then your template and target property should be located in the same organization. I do not take care yet of the synchronization between two launch property between two different organizations, so they have to be in the same organization. You have a unique name for your rule and data elements, as the synchronization will work for both rules and data elements, but they have to have unique names for each of them, and we'll see that later. It's important because the ID is not the same with each property, within each property. Therefore, the name is the only way we have a common key. So having the same a unique name is important. And you have the extension, the same extension installed in both template and target properties. We can have more than one property, target properties, because I'm not taking care of extension configuration management. So that you still need to do manually if you wish to do a synchronization between different properties. Okay, that being said, I will go through all of that directly in the code. I want first to explain why I'm doing that and what's it to it for you. So I have my sandbox access. So you see it's my sandbox here. And in my sandbox, I have different properties, and two properties are prop1 and prop2, which I have here, prop1 and prop2. And at some point in time, you may have more than two properties, so a lot of property that always follow the same pattern. They always use the same rules because they are located on different websites, and you want to make sure the same rules are always the same on each of the properties. In order to do that, you have one way to do it, and only one way to do it in launch, and it's only the instantiation way. So if I have between prop1 and prop2, I want to add a rule that exists in prop1 to prop2. I can say, okay, now I want to copy that, and I want to copy that to prop2. So this is a possibility you have to copy one rule. That element will work the same way, and now I can see that the sync rule 2, I think was the name, sync rule 1, sorry, has been added to the prop2 property. The problem arises, so this is very limited, because if I'm actually changing something, like saying, oh, this is 2, no, for some reason, I need to save that. Then, I cannot synchronize that anymore. So here I still have in my custom code, this is something 1, and here this is something 2. One way would be to say, now I want to copy it again. So now let's copy it again to prop2, because I changed something. And this will unfortunately not work the way we want to, but I think the way it's expected to. I'm going to refresh that. We find out that there is already a sync rule 1 rule. So it's actually creating a copy of it. So you still have the old one enabled and the new one enable, but with a different name now because it has copy. It will just add copy and copy and copy as a suffix all the time if you copy it more. And that exactly is not what you want. You want to have a way to manage the modification of a rule that exists in multiple property only one time. And this is what the synchronizer helps you to do. So in order to go to the synchronizer, I will need to use launchpy, and to use launchpy, I need to go into my folder, and here, I think as usual, for anyone that follow me, you can see the old video how to use that, but I'm going to open a Jupyter notebook. And I'm going to use a new notebook now to start from scratch. And now I'm going to import, make it a bit better, launchpy as LP, because I'm super lazy and I don't want to write launchpy. I just want to add that top here. And from LP, I'm going to import, as I was saying, this is a prerequisite. So config, how is it? I just need to remember. AGS config. So this is my configuration JSON file where I say my secret, where is located my private key, my client ID, and so forth, in order to connect to the API. So now I'm able to do that. I'm able to load to the API, and now I'm going to have to the admin. So the admin section is going to be lp.admin. And now I'm going to look for the admin get properties. So this, no, actually, I need to get the get company ID first. And then admin get properties. So this is something, if you follow the previous video, it's nothing new. You always have to do this to connect to the API of Launch. So technically what I'm doing, I'm selecting my company ID, so which is this one, and then I'm going to load all of the properties as you see it here, directly here. So properties. So if I look at my property number 0, so the first one, you see that the name is data analyst, and this is this one. This is the blog, and so forth. You have all of them located here. Technically, you don't need all of that. I just want to show you that you have those implementation available to access then the properties, because it's a good recap how you can access the property. So if you say now from the property, I want to access the prop1 or properties, let's say I want to access the prop2 because this is where we are going to duplicate the different elements. I'm going to say for prop, and properties, if prop attribute name equal, let's check prop2. So I'm going to check for each of the property if in the attribute section or attribute object, I have the name here equals to prop2. And it's going to return me a list. So I will select one, the first one, and then prop2 will be then LP. That's going to do that. Prop2 LP property class, and you can pass then prop2 here. Okay, this is going to be useful at some point later. And now I'm going to go to the synchronizer. So for the synchronizer to work, what you need to do is actually load the synchronizer class into an instance. So I will call it the synchronizer. This could be the synchronizer class. And you see that it requires a base, which is a string, and target, it's a list of strings. So there are some examples here in the elements. So I'm going to show you that the base here is going to, as I say, prop1, because this is what we're going to use for template. And then the target will be a list of string, which is all of the properties I want to duplicate the prop1 component into. So in my case, I have only one. I want to just use the target prop2. So now I'm going to synchronize. So the synchronizer is now getting ready. And now I can say sync component. And here you can place either the name, or if you want, you can place the component ID. But by default, the first element is the name, and this is what I would always recommend. As I explained, the name is the single entity that we can use to find elements between two properties. So in my prop1, I'm going to do now the same thing I did before, sync_full1. And this, no. Yeah, it's returning me what has been done. Then I'm going to now in the property 2. And you see that I have sync role 1, and you see that it's been modified by my API connection. So it's a technical account. And now this has everything as well. So it has the same thing. The core custom code will be something 2, as it is here, something 2. So what we could do as well is now we change it to something 1 again in the prop1. So I'm going to save that. So here I'm doing nothing in the prop2. So then if I actually try to resync it, so now I hope I save it. If I know, yeah, I think this will reload it. Something 1 is now available in the prop2. So you see nothing has been created. There is no new rule. Everything has been located as expected. For data element, it worked the same way. I can now look at the data element in prop2. There is no data element, so I will say, okay, I want to connect this one. So return property 1. I just take the name, and I say I want to please sync this component. And now, if I reload that, I have the prop1 DA. So this is working as expected. The thing is, sometimes I have a possibility that sometimes you want to sync not the latest version. So currently it's taking the latest version that you have seen. So if I'm looking at sync rule 1, you see I have the latest, but the live version may be different. So in my case, the live version, I don't know what is inside. The live version is something 2 inside the sync. And I want, this is the current version, the latest version that we are seeing by default. It's not something that should be production ready. So someone is working on it, and I don't want me, or I don't want anyone when they sync to take this version that is work in progress. I want them to take the version that has been approved and that has been released. So which means the latest live version, which in my case, I repeat, contains something 2. And in order to do that, you take the name of the thing, so syncful1. And there is an additional parameter, which is published version. By default, it is false, but if you set it to true, then it will automatically take the version that has been published, the latest one, and sync that to the target properties you have selected. As I said, there is only one, but there could be a list of multiple ones. So again, if I'm looking now in rules, sync rule 1, custom code, I see that it's something 1, but the version that has been published is something 2. So by now syncing again, but selecting a published version, I need to check, remove the print statement that I have. It's now, if I, in the prop2 reload that, I'm going to reload that page. I have something 2 now. So I hope it makes sense, these parameters. Be careful when you use published version, because if your component has never been published, it will cause an error. The same way you can sync component with the S, which means that we have a list. We expected the list of component to be published, and again, we can also say the published version. In that case, the published version will be selected for all of those components that you have listed here. So yeah, this is something you can do. It's technically just a loop, so you can work with the for loop yourself if you have the list of components. And what I wanted to show you as well is the problem that may occur to some people using this capability a lot, is that it is it could be quite difficult to know what has been synced, what has not been synced, if you want to publish a new library with everything that is being synced. So what I would always recommend is that you sync a lot of components, and then you do a specific library for publishing that synchronization. So you do not mix the synchronization with other changes that you have done in your property. So you, of course, you try to make it this way. So when you create a lot of synchronization, so what I'm doing with my client is I have dozens of rules that actually needs to be synchronized, and some data elements sometimes. So it's quite difficult to select and handpick when you create a library. So what you could do is, when you use the synchronizer, you can create in the target libraries, you can create in the target property, sorry, you can create libraries. And then I would say my library update, or let's say my sync update. This is the name of the library that I'm going to create or to reuse. If this name is already used, then I will reuse that library to then load all of the elements that I have synced. So I have kept in memory all of the elements I have synced. And by doing this now in prop2, and I'm going to see the publish flow, you see that I have my sync update, and in that I have my sync rule 1 and my prop1 data element that are available here. And then you can directly attach an environment and test your things if you want to. That's the main thing. You have the possibility to also synchronizer rename component by passing the old name and the new name. As I said, the name is very important and it should be unique. Imagine that during the base property, so your template property, you need for some reason to change that name. So you can change that name here and saying sync rule 1 and saying test. The problem is now if you sync rule 1 test with the property 2, this rule does not exist, so it will not take this rule. It will create a new rule saying this is a new rule that does not exist. But technically, it still exists. It's just this rule has changed its name. In order to do that, all the target property, I will need to say, okay, now I want to rename my target property. In my target property, if I have a rule that is called sync rule 1, I want to rename it to sync rule 1 test. And by doing that, then I'm actually able to rename them, and then I can apply the synchronization again because the rule name will match again. So I hope that was helpful for you and you understood everything I was explaining. As I said, everything is available in the documentation, and the video is available now in YouTube and in my blog post. So yeah, have fun with that. Let me know any feedback. Ciao.